Hello, my name is John Jimenez, and for this literary focus unit, I really wanted to challenge myself. So I went ahead and selected the 4th through 8th section with the 4 weeks of lessons. And the book that I selected was Lord of the Flies, and I wanted to focus on 8th grade. So with that, I really want to propose 3 questions that all surround the main idea of setting, since I want that to be kind of a theme of this unit, because as we know, setting is a crucial part of all text. So 3 questions that I wanted to propose. 1. What does setting contribute to the story? 2. How is setting used as a character? And then 3. How does the author infuse setting into the work? So those are the 3 main things that I wanted to propose to the students. Now, as far as units and standards that I selected for this, I selected a good handful in order to support vocabulary, comprehension, fluency, and writing. So I selected about a total of, let me count real quick, about 13 or so standards in order to be able to cover those within this 4-week period. I know that sounds like a lot, I know, and I really wanted to be able to expose the children to as many different things as possible, and I think all these kind of go hand in hand as far as when it comes to reading comprehension. For vocabulary, there are 2 standards that I wanted to focus on, 1.1 and 1.3. 1.1 is kind of focuses on metaphor, similes, and infers to literature and figurative meaning. 1.3, it's kind of the context in how to show the ability to verify those meanings by definition. Examples, comprehension, or contrast. For comprehension and fluency, those kind of, to me, are very similar, as well as vocabulary. But for comprehension and fluency, I went with 2.1, 2.2, 2.7, 3.4, and 3.6. This is the one that had the most standards in it. But 2.1, it kind of features the elements of materials to gain meaning from the documents. So that means contrast, product information, instructional manuals, things like that. For 2.2, analyzing the text, and 2.7 was evaluating coherency, logic, internal consistency, and structural patterns from the text. 3.4 had to deal with the relevancy of setting, which is one of the key things that I really wanted to focus on this unit, because I think it kind of you're able to play into all of the other aspects of it. 3.6 is identify significant literacy devices. So for example, it would be metaphors or irony, things like that. For writing, I selected 4 different standards to kind of go over: 1.2, 1.5, 1.6, and 2.1. For 1.2, it's kind of establishing coherency within or among paragraphs. 1.5 is being able to achieve balance between the research information and the original idea. 1.6 is being able to revise writings. And then 2.1 is it's basically writing short stories, which is the end goal of this unit for me and for the students. The idea is by the end of the unit is for the students to put together a work based on setting. I wanted setting to be a big part of their work. So I wanted them to start there with really defining a place, what it looks like, what it smells like, how would someone feel in this environment. I wanted them to create a space that would help them further a story. So some of the activities that I wanted to do during this unit in order to support all of these things, they range. It's really a big range. So anywhere from centers to shared reading, guided reading. I wanted to do quick writes. I wanted to have journal or reading logs. And with the centers, I really want to be able to use that because I think that it's kind of universal as far as grades. I think it works with 8th grade as good as it works with 4th grade. As long as you're challenging the students and you're not keeping them contained into one activity for so long. So having centers, kind of being able to have them interact, having creative ways of them practicing some of these standards and some of these skills in their centers, and not keeping them too long, having them rotate, I think is very important. And at the same time, I would be able to have a guided reading section with some of the students that are struggling. And that's kind of the goal. As when it comes to shared reading, I really wanted to be a model for the students on how good readers read. So if I'm in the middle of a text, I can stop and say that, hey guys, this is a good place to stop and use one of our reading strategies would be predict. So I think that the next thing that's going to happen is that Piggy is going to get lost in the woods. Now that may be completely wrong, but the point is that I'm modeling how a strategy is used internally but out loud for them to see. And I wouldn't just focus on one strategy, because I think that as readers we don't do that. I mean, we focus on all these different strategies. So I want to be able to do that with as many as possible, and then for them to see it, and also allow time for them to interact and discuss based on that. So for example, I would stop in the middle of a text, and I would have the students turn to each other, and I would tell them, hey guys, all right, turn to your neighbor, and I want you to discuss how you relate personally to the text. What about the text can you relate to, or maybe one of the characters? So they would discuss that for a couple minutes, 2 minutes maybe, and then I'd get them back, and I'd want them to share some of their findings based on their conversations, and they would get back to the text. The key being is that they're able to see, discuss, and comprehend what's going on here and how to utilize some of the reading strategies that are out there, that are available. And other things that I wanted to do, because I feel like getting the kids engaged off the bat is important. So kind of going all the way back to the beginning, before we even open the text, I really wanted to give them a scenario that's very similar to this actually. And I wanted to give them a scenario that was basically, if they were on a trip, class trip, everyone here, including the teacher, we got on a plane and we were flying to London, but on the way there our plane crashes, and all of the adults happen to die, and I'm sure that they're gonna love that idea of it, but the fact is that they're gonna be alone, and they land on an island and they are stranded. I wanted them to come up with 5 things, the first 5 things that they would do in order to survive. What are the first 5 things that they would do? Would it be getting water? Would it be finding shelter? Would it be locating luggage? Like, what? I want to know where their heads would be at, and then that way I can get them directly connected to the text in a fun, creative way. And I think that that's something that we can do as a class and as a unit, so that way once we dive into that, I can say, remember that scenario that we talked about and we had this discussion about, and it's pretty cool things? Well, guess what? This is kind of what that book's about. They crash. They don't have any adults with them. What are they gonna do? Let's see if some of the things that you guys talked about and you guys discovered and you guys came up with are in here. And that for me would be a gateway, hopefully, into them gaining that instant connection to the text. And as far as other activities to support some of the standards, I wanted to do improv games because theater, I feel like theater is a great outlet for being able to make connections with some of these standards. Specifically with fluency, excuse me, with fluency, Because good readers need to be able to read smoothly and with excitement when needed, and being able to dramatize the text, bring the text alive. And with theater, I think that it's a good outlet for them to kind of see that in a different light. So for example, one of the things that I would have them do would be something that's called emotional rescue. Two students go up to the front of the class, one's given an emotion, let's say happy, another one's given another emotion, let's say sad, and what they have to do is they have to stick to that emotion. So this student is always happy, this student's always sad. They start neutral and they gradually build. So by the end of the scene, this student is extremely happy, this student's extremely sad. But I think that this helps with kind of seeing and hearing students and how someone happy would speak, how someone sad would hear, how they would hear and act. And I think that helps students be able to kind of visualize it and understand it a little bit more. And another activity that I think is pretty cool is just a sentence reading. I would have a random sentence on the board, and then we would go around the classroom, and each student would have an opportunity to read the sentence, but highlighting something else, maybe doing it sad or doing it with different emotion, having it mean something else than what is actually written. And not every student would be able to repeat what the other students have done. They'd have to be unique and have to come up with their own. So I think that also plays into being able to express when you're reading, is knowing the different points where we can highlight different words or put less emphasis on words. And these are just little games, short, 1-2 minute games, and I think that they're really fun and able to get the students to kind of relax and be able to learn in a creative way, because I think creativity is essential. And those were kind of some of the strategies that I would use, is go behind the idea of creativity and allowing these kids to use their imagination, to use the knowledge of the emotions that they already know in their head, and being able to put that down on paper. So by having a story, not just write me an essay, or not just write me a paper on this subject, I wanted them to focus on something that's essential, which is setting. And so having them create a story that's focused around a place, I think it'll be a fun way for the students to get involved in the whole unit. So overall, there's a lot of different ways that this can go, and I really wanted to focus on making it a fun, enjoyable way for them to connect to the text, a way for them to see that learning can be fun. And that's I think key, and I think that is universal in all grades. I think learning should be viewed as fun, and that's my goal. So thank you, and this has been my presentation on the Literary Focus Unit.